What a difference a few days makes. We've got Bitcoin starting to roll over. We've got the stock market also starting to break down. It's all changed. I'm going to ask the question, are we still going higher? Do I still see Bitcoin attacking those higher targets that I've spoken about? Or is that it? Is the rally over and should we be preparing for lower prices? So here we've got the daily chart of Bitcoin, and as you can see, we are starting to roll over. We have come down to this longer term trend line here at support. This is really our bull market trend line, our last line of support for the bull market. You can see it connected the lows going back to October 2023, back in the summer as well, the low of August, and now we seem to be finding support at it. The problem is we are literally hugging this trend line here, and the more times you tap into this trend line as support, the weaker this support is going to become. Obviously, previously we had found support at this trend line alongside this 100-week moving average. Now we are finding ourselves starting to approach the trend line once again. And I do think if we do break through this trend line with a daily or weekly close under this level, then we will likely break through this 100-week moving average and move down to our major support down at around about 74,000 and below that at 69,000. I expect probably we find support down here if that move does play out shortly. Of course, we were talking about potentially coming up and tagging this 50-week moving average. We were also looking at our daily chart and saying we've got our 200-day up here, which we might come up and tag before rolling over. I said we could go as high as around about 104,000, but we seem to be rolling over right away. If we go down to our slightly more annotated chart, we can see that this is what I was expecting for us to get this pullback here into some sort of support. So let me just move that box out the way, some sort of support, and for us to get a bounce and have a go higher. But it seems to me here that with this breakdown, with us crashing in such an impulsive fashion, it looks like this is pretty heavy selling to me. And it really is make or break for price here. We really need to see a turnaround and to recapture some of these levels and quickly to the upside, or else I do think we do risk doing probably something like this, sort of coming down lower and then making our way down to the downside, down to that sort of low 70k area. So that is what is looking, to be honest with you, more likely right now. Probably a move down into the mid 80s, some sort of bounce attempt from there. But ultimately, I think the damage has been done now on the downside. I think today, like I say, I think today really is the final chance for bulls to step in and start to turn this around. Any closes below this ascending trend line here, I do think will be confirmation that we are going to break this trend line and start to see lower prices. So pretty critical 24 hours for Bitcoin here. Looking at Ethereum, similar kind of plan. I had thought this could trade up to 3,800, but the turnaround obviously happening and we're starting to see the breakdown. And like I say, potentially we're going to come down and test these lows once again. I think if we do come down and test these lows once again, these targets will be off the table. We'll be looking for some sort of bounce and then rejection and continuation to the downside, which can take us. I mean, I haven't updated this path for a while. I don't necessarily think we'll come down here right away. This is maybe a little bit on the bearish side, but I do think we could see some sort of price action sort of resembling this over the coming months, as I expect crypto to remain in a downtrend, strong downtrend over the remainder of 2026. Obviously, there will be bumps along the way, but it looks like we're starting to get a little bit of, how should we say it, a few clues from the market. The market is starting to show its hand here as to its next direction, and that seems to be to the downside on Ethereum, on Solana as well. I talked about Solana potentially having a bounce in it up to this 200-day moving average, which would have been around about 170, also coincided with our 382 fib. But it's looking to me, we are starting to break down from really, really key levels. I wanted to see on this pullback, really this 50-day moving average act as some support, or if we actually look at our Fibonacci's, I was looking to see the 50% line actually act as some support that would have got us to around about 132 here. That hasn't. We went straight through. Obviously, that was a key resistance level or support level, should I say, that we've lost. Maybe we come back up to 132 before then starting to roll over with Solana. So that's how Solana's looking. If we look at Bitcoin here, I think we're a bit closer to the 50%, or we might have come to the 618. Yeah, we are, to be honest with you, we've lost that. We've lost that 50%. I expect we do come down on Bitcoin over the coming days to some lower price levels. And it's a similar story with Ethereum as well, because I was looking at this myself yesterday. I was thinking to myself, does this zero point 0.5 hell hold? No, we've come to the 618, and I do think we will get to continuation a bit lower on this before attempting some sort of bounce. So not looking great if you're a crypto holder. For full disclosure, I'm completely out of any longs. I did attempt to bid on Bitcoin as it was coming down at this trend line, and just above there at its zero point 0.5. But as I just showed you, we've closed below that, and like I say on this chart, we've got a daily close below this trend. Obviously, that can be a fake out, and we can bounce from here. But I just think any bounce here to be sold into and probably fail, and we probably do have to come down in the short term a bit lower on Bitcoin to see if we can bounce from any of these lower levels. Shall we say a stronger bounce? So let's see what happens with crypto. But like I say, for me, I'm fully out at the moment. Dollar starting to come off a bit. We've got gold, new all-time highs again, just massive extension. I was expecting we'd see some sort of consolidation before attempting to move higher, but there seems to be no letting up. Silver consolidating at all-time highs, still looking extremely bullish. Obviously, I did talk about the fact that we had this Tom DeMark 9 top on the daily. We had a 5-day Tom DeMark 9 top, and we had a weekly Tom DeMark 9 top, and the price doesn't care. Silver doesn't care. It is carrying on to move higher, its leg higher, carrying on to push on higher. And we've got oil here as well. I did talk about taking a long on oil, so I guess at this 50%, around this 50% level. So oil is at least one trade that seems to be working for us. And just looking at the weekly, I talked about the green 2 going above the green 1, initiating a buy trade. Obviously, we did manage to get the close of the body of the green 2 above the body of the green 1, so that keeps me in the trade. The green 3 now, I'll be looking for this to continue really onwards and upwards. I think there will be rotation into oil. Obviously, this is one of those commodities that has not yet really participated in this bubble. So I do think oil will be next to run and will be one of the trades for 2026. You can see yields have been spiking. So this obviously tells us that all is not great and all is not too well with the current economy if yields are starting to spike like this. But I do think that this is an opportunity potentially to look to sell yields or look to buy bonds, because as we know, Trump's handpicked FOMC chairman is going to be joining in a few short months. And I expect at that point, the narrative around rates and certainly around rate cuts will really start to change. So I do think at that point we will see yields come down. We will see bonds start to run. So whereas we've got markets right now that are looking very, very heated, very overextended, we are going to have opportunities in other markets such as oil, other markets such as bonds that I do think will start to take some of that liquidity. Maybe it's a rotation out of metals, which really starts to send things like oil, things like the bond market higher. People are hoping it will send Bitcoin higher, but at the moment it remains to be seen. Obviously, no real signs of that yet. And as for the stock market, so the stock market has pulled back. To be honest, there's not really a lot to be too worried about for me at this point. Like I say, this trend line's been broken. We've started to come down. I think we probably test this daily 100-day moving average here. That is sort of lining up with the December lows. So potentially we come down, look to take some liquidity around that level, and then start to go higher. Or it might just be a fake out of this 50 MA, and we start to go higher. I still really do think that the market goes for new all-time highs in the first half of this year before a larger pullback. So obviously the market reacting to uncertainty around mainly around the trade wars and the tariffs being slapped on the EU, certain EU countries or certain European countries by President Trump. And then we've also got the issue with Greenland. We've still got some uncertainty around the issue with Iran. So there's a lot going on right now, and it's no real surprise to see that the VIX did spike yesterday, but we seem to be coming down fairly hard at this point, which is good if you're long stocks. That is what you want to see. You want to see the VIX coming down. It's below 19. I always say, as long as the VIX is below 19, the market dips should be for buying. So as long as we don't see a prolonged or extended spike higher, I do think right now these dips are for buying, and the VIX is telling me that as well. Over to the Nasdaq quickly, you can see the Nasdaq also coming into this 100-day moving average. So we'll see if it finds some support over the next few days. But that's really, yeah, that's really all I wanted to update on. Right, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you all again on the next one. Bye for now.